Professor Alberto Crane. Oh, thank you. I'll get my water bottles over there. So, first question. This is kind of how I begin all of my interviews. When and where were you born?
Where was I born? In Santa Fe, New Mexico, and right? July 14th, 1976.
Oh, birthday coming up.
Yeah.
July 14th, 1976. That's 12 years for me, just putting that context in my life. A little bit older than my older sister, all right, in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And
I should be honest, I was born actually in North Dakota.
Oh.
But, I don't really say that because, I was just born there. We're from Santa Fe, New Mexico, so.
Okay. What was going on in North Dakota?
My dad was an engineer.
Okay.
And so he was building like a power plant, and so he was contracted there. And
Okay.
I was there for a minute.
Okay. And then, is he originally from New Mexico?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your mom?
My mom is from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, how much time did you spend growing up there? What part of your childhood were you there? Your entire childhood?
So my dad actually was, to be honest, to go deeper into it, since this is, how long are we going to go for?
As long as you've got.
Okay. So my dad was actually an orphan.
Okay.
And he was born post World War II in Germany.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so his mom gave him up for adoption, and he was adopted by the Crane family, by this Major Crane, and brought over.
A major in the U.S. military?
Yeah, and so in the Army, and then was brought over on one of the Queen Marys,
Whoa.
Yeah, so across the Atlantic on the boat, she remembers all that. Remembers he was like like a nun kind of. Remembers the nuns being taken away from them, and just all those little things. He remembers everything.
Did his dad, your grandfather, die in the war?
No, he was. It was just a situation, where I think he was like a military, and just it was. They were both young, right? And I don't know all the details,
Oh, really? So you don't know the full story?
My mom went back and she tried to discover,
Okay.
But my mom did, yeah. My mom did, because she thought it was important for her kids,
But your dad never went back and...
He didn't want to know.
He didn't want to know?
No.
So he just considered his adoptive parents his parents?
He had a tough childhood, my dad. So his mom, adopted mom, and dad, pretty soon after they came back from Germany, pretty soon after, they adopted two other kids as well.
Okay.
So
two other German kids.
Okay. And after they came back, the dad left and never came back, and so then they ended up
the major in the military.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she left. It was in Colorado, I think, in Fort Collins or something, if I'm remembering correctly. And then she went down and took the bus, or I don't know whatever the transport was back then, trains, I don't know. And I ended up liking the way it smelled in New Mexico, Albuquerque, after it rained.
She took the bus with all the kids?
I'm not sure if she took the bus. I don't know what the transportation was, but I'll let you know. All I know is that they stopped in New Mexico, and she liked the way it smelled after it rained.
Whoa!
It smells like very kind of ozone-y, actually really nice.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I want to stay here. And so it was her and 3 kids.
Okay, so all the 3 kids. Whoa! And her husband, it was. I don't know if you know why. It was too much for him. I mean, that's kind of an intense
I don't know.
Whoa, so she was left alone with 3.
I don't know. She was, who knows? I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it's only speculation. I have no idea. All I know is that she drank a lot.
Okay.
And, maybe she couldn't have kids or bear kids, and so that's why they had to adopt kids, and who knows? I have no idea.
Whoa. She drank a lot?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So now you're...
I don't know much about them. All I know is what my dad told me.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting you're going into this, because this is kind of the impetus, the reason I started this whole podcast to begin with. It's kind of now going into something else. But I started from day one. I wanted to just start interviewing the most significant people in my life, starting chronologically. So my mom being the first one. My dad, who I didn't have any relationship with growing up, was like in the top 10, but I didn't even consider him someone I really knew growing up, because I don't feel like I met that guy until I was like maybe in elementary school.
Okay.
I would visit occasionally, but it was this exact thing. It was like half of my life, that side of who I am, that side of my family, I know nothing about. I know nothing about the history of half of who I am.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start with the half that I am kind of familiar with, my mom's half, interview my mom, interview my two sisters on that side,
Cool. Yeah.
my grandmother, and went from there with like childhood friends. I eventually made it to my dad, and I have a couple siblings on that side as well, just to start to kind of like dig into like not that your family's past defines you,
it's
but
all
it's
inside you, you know, it's on your DNA even.
Yeah.
Totally, it's totally in you.
Yeah, and more than anything, I find
And it's important to know where you come from,
Yeah.
and your roots and things like that.
Yeah, it is.
100% it is.
Yeah, and especially with on my dad's side, when I started to learn kind of about the darker sides of myself, not that I've done anything like criminal or really bad, but poor decisions and things you regret in life. Like, whoa, how did this?
Yeah.
I wasn't raised like this.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Why did this happen?
Yeah. So yeah, I started.
Your pre-programming.
Yeah, exactly.
That you were just born with.
Yeah. So anyway, here we are with you, and it's interesting. Yeah, that similar story. It's like this. It is kind of cool to think that like kind of who I am and what I know though begins with my parents.
Yeah.
Because it is also nice to think that like I'm a blank slate. It doesn't matter where I come from, who I am. I can become my own person, my own thing.
For sure.
So.
Yeah. So my dad's side was he had a tough childhood, and my mom comes from a really like a well-to-do family.
Okay.
Really, like just really good family. My dad was like an orphan, right? So he didn't even have a family, right? And he was adopted. And she was very abusive, and he ran away. I think he was like 12. She would like, they immigrated, and one of the threats she would tell him was like, I'm going to get you deported back to Germany. And so he was always so scared he was going to get that. And one day he went to school, and the teacher saw that he was like kind of disturbed, and but it was the issue. Is like, hey, you don't have to go back home if you don't want to. And he's like, really, And then she called her police friend, and he came, and then they got him into the system,
Oh, orphan again.
Well, yeah. Well, she was very like she could tell there was something wrong. He had like he played with a doll, like he had a doll that he Long John Silver or something like that.
Yeah.
That he played with just to kind of deal with the trauma. And stuff.
Yeah.
And so he had an older sister and a brother, and they all left. There was one actually not before him, the older brother I think left, and then the sister stayed longer. But yeah, he didn't go back, and then he's like, oh man, like I'm in trouble, like because he remember the doors closing, and like, oh man, I messed up this time. He was part of the state now. But what happened was they moved him up to Santa Fe into this home, and they were like some amazing people. They're like kind of like one of the premier like homes at the time. And so there was like this lady that really took over and took care of him, and one of the first things that she did was making sure he's a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing
he wasn't. Oh wow.
Yeah, and really just take care of him, and and just very sensitive. And then there was like this horse ranch, and so he kind of grew up on a ranch.
Okay.
But it was kind of like for rich kids, that thing, like a lot super successful, like not like just I think it was cost a lot of money, so that's why. Yeah, and so it just happened to be one of the couple of places that had this kind of
like a boarding school,
and they had like horses and things like that.
Okay, so kind of.
And yeah, just was a process, right? But like there was like really good people there. And then, of course, he started to go to elementary school, and my mom's mother was his grade school teacher, and so she was kind of like a super teacher, and so she'd always be up in his business, like, what's going on, how you doing, what's going on, like just up in his business, and like to watch out for him. Even after she passed away, like my parents had divorced, separated, and my family actually asked my dad to be a pallbearer, because they know how much like she meant to him, and vice versa. So anyway, fast forward, and he ended up marrying my mom. He's his teacher's daughter, and yeah, they were like a really well-to-do family. Like my grandfather was an attorney, big, really, investment, and he was a judge, and he was in politics, state senator.
This is the teacher's husband.
Correct. Yeah, my grandfather.
He must have done well in school then, if like he had kind of earned the approval of his.
Yeah, so my dad was really smart, and he's like, man, that's what got me through everything was my brains and my work ethic.
Yeah, but for a kid to have gone through that much trauma that early in life, you would think that would manifest, and oh my, you think that would manifest itself in some like behavior issues, discipline issues.
I mean, it did, right? It did, but he was able to like, put himself through high school because of these like angels, he calls them, like my grandmother being one of them, some of the teachers and some of the people in his life, like just families that watched out for him, because Santa Fe is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Back then it was even smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people kind of watched out for him, because they knew his thing, like he had to take like a bus and all these things to get to where he lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, had school, and then he worked, and then he did his homework, and he had to get good grades, and he made something happen. And he goes back. He went in his like mid-20s, late 20s, I think, and he looked at all the people that were in that home with him, and they were either dead or in jail. Whoa. Like every single one.
Yeah, that's you think.
Out of it. And but he started to, there was parties in high school. He started to kind of drink,
mm-hmm. and
he was like, he would be like the life of the party and mm-hmm. stuff like that. But then he kind of never stopped,
Oh, really?
Well, just it kind of manifested, right? Because of course there's like pain and
mm-hmm.
traumas and stuff. So that's how he kind of dealt with it. But
mm-hmm.
it kind of got, I think, worse when during college. He's like a very proud American,
mm-hmm.
Because for whatever reason.
Right.
And so when the Vietnam War happened, he didn't have to go to Vietnam, the Vietnam War, because he was in college, right? But he felt like it wasn't right.
Right.
And so he actually volunteered to go
mm-hmm.
because he didn't feel like it was right that these other kids were fighting
mm-hmm.
and was at war, and he didn't
mm-hmm.
have to go
mm-hmm.
because of all the opportunities he had
mm-hmm.
that the country had given him, being in these homes and just everything.
Yeah.
And so he volunteered and then became like a Green Beret, and just a lot of stuff happened, And so, like they say, like there's a guy who wrote a book called Tribe, also a book called
Sebastian
War.
Younger.
Sebastian Younger.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, he started it because he started going over PTSD with
mm-hmm.
like in the Vietnam War, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the guys there, and there's stuff in his book, and that's actually what he did, right? He was like a Green Beret, and he trained the soldiers, and so they were at these 8 camps in the middle of nowhere, and because he would have like nightmares like almost every day, I think. And I'm like, what are you thinking about? Because it's like this shriek and the scream. It's like, oh, just that I'm waking up with a gun against my head.
Whoa,
but it's like you're more susceptible to those things when you have like a tough childhood, supposedly.
Yeah.
So that was his like a little bit of his story. And then my mom's side, like
right after high school, he joined?
No, he went to college. He went to like because they're in New Mexico, so they went to New Mexico State.
Okay.
He was in college, and then he like during college he like one of the years of the junior. I don't know what it was, but he ended up volunteering.
And when he came back, what did he get into, or what was?
Well, he finished. He finished college, I think. Finished university, and then he became an engineer.
Okay.
Like a civil engineer, because of his brains and his like work ethic.
And how do your mom? He just met at was she at the
same
school?
They grew up. Yeah, they grew up in this. They went to the same school.
Yeah.
My mom wouldn't. It's like whatever. Like growing up. But then, I don't know. He was like persistent, and then he joined the military. You can't. I could see, like the qualities. Like my grandfather, her dad had. He was like a hard worker, and he was a good person too. My father. He was a good person. He can see, and he has courage. He can, he has courage. He has like courage to do things.
Anyone enlisting in the military during an active war, especially war like Vietnam, has
then
courage,
they was like ask like, well, why'd you do that? He's like, I don't know. The way he looked at me, he's like I can't do it. So then he went all the way to do that.
Yeah, that's courage, man. I mean, I now that I started this podcast, like I told you, but then now this is martial arts becomes so much a part of my life. I want to start interviewing people here, and the first people I was drawn to are the people from the Alta program, people that kind of, I guess, ostensibly were basically 9-to-5ers or off the street without a ton of martial arts experience who then would do an MMA fight in a cage. That to me, I don't know, that like psychology and what that takes, I found so fascinating, and that's why, you know, I started interviewing, you know, the people from the Alta program initially from Legacy. Obviously you have that experience as well, but someone like your dad going off enlisting, volunteering in Vietnam when you're in the middle of college, coming from, like, it's set, like your life is based in America. If you follow the steps and make the right decisions, which aren't like that difficult to make, like the path is set for you to become basically what you want in so many ways. You go to elementary school, go to middle school, go to high school, make relatively good grades. You don't even really need to make relatively good grades. You just go to community college with any kind of grades, get an associate's degree, get a bachelor's degree, study what you want, get a good job, you know, go back to school. Like the path is there if you kind of stay on the path. And, you know, you don't have to be a choir boy to do that. You can still have a fun and have a life. And so to be there from where your dad came from, like war-torn Germany, double orphan in a way.
It's like a little bit like the movie Forrest Gump, you know, in a way, because it was like his era, you know, like a lot of those things, you know, just his background and the traumas and things he had to overcome. Different, of course, you know, but it's like a movie, really, you know, from World War II, Germany, growing up there, being orphaned, right?
Yeah.
Going across the Queen Mary big boat across the Atlantic, you know?
It reminds me of Pat Tillman. You know Pat Tillman?
No.
Pat Tillman, he played for
the
Cardinals and ASU, safety.
For sure,
he was like a Pro Bowl caliber safety.
He
enlisted to have everything going for you.
Yeah.
As a young man, just your dad's the same way, and then like, I'm going to Vietnam. That takes courage.
Well, yeah, it's I asked him too, and it's like he's just had this self-image, right, from when he was a kid, you know, like, you know, the mom abusing, you're never going to amount to anything, you're going to be a ditch digger, I don't know, whatever she said, that would hurt him, because she was miserable, right, and so she took it out on the kids, because it's easy, right,
yeah, man,
and he says that, there should be a law against, like, people being able to be parents.
She didn't have any biological children?
No,
so there must have been an issue there, and who knows how deep that runs.
But you know, on the other side, right? On the flip side, like my mom, like her
that's what I was gonna ask.
They're like super people, you know. Super community. Like my grandmother, my grandfather, they were on the board of education, teachers. My grandfather's an attorney, right? But they're just like they're all about the community and helping people. My grandfather made some good moves, and so he was able to really help people. Even like as a lawyer for like 40 years, you know, for free pretty much.
Whoa.
So they're like smart too, right? And so it's very interesting, you know, because I feel like you know, they gave me like a self-image of myself, because I look at my grandfather, my mom's dad, a lot like my father figure. I even have they named me after him. His name is Albert, but they put the O on there because my mom wanted for me not to forget my Hispanic heritage. Okay. So they put the O at the end.
Is one of them Latino?
My mom is Hispanic.
Your mom is okay.
Yeah.
She Mexican?
Well, they like to say, like, people from New Mexico, like Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's actually it's the oldest like town, oldest house, oldest everything.
The original Mexico.
Well, it was before the English came.
Yeah.
So you can trace it back like 400 plus years, right? Yeah. And so they like to say they're Spanish, but my grandmother had like Indian stuff, like American Indian, like, you know, from those areas, right there. It's like Apache, Pueblo, different Indians. And then my grandfather's side, I think, was definitely like very like Spanish, European, you know. But I think she was also mixed, but he was like very very European looking, his family and stuff. So they were like a really strong players, you know.
What was their last name?
Gonzalez. My grandfather's was
Gonzalez. Okay. And then Crane comes from which set of parents?
I don't know. Who knows?
But it comes from your dad's side?
Yeah, it's my dad's side. It's an adopted name.
From his mom, who adopted him?
No, it's his dad's.
His dad who adopted him.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just like this own thing out there. Yeah. That's kind of cool too.
But it works with the martial arts, right?
Yeah. It does. No, it really does. It's a cool last name. It's it honestly, it gives off exactly what you want. It gives off a bit of a sensei kind of vibe, right? It gives off a guru type vibe.
Yeah, it works.
It's good. See, like talk about a blank slate. Like
Yeah.
it kind of just an. That's nice. Okay, so when did your parents get married? Before your dad left for the war?
Yes, I think right before he went to go to war.
No kids at that point.
No kids at the time. Yeah.
Okay, he comes back from war. They have kids when he comes back from war.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact timeline when he went, but I think it was like a couple of years or a year after my sister was born, and then I was born.
Okay, and was it just the two of you growing up? You and your older sister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what was the relationship like between all of y'all in the household? Like, what kind of household was it?
Well, my parents just separated when I was like 4.
Okay.
So I was pretty young.
Okay.
So I don't have a lot of memories. I remember my dad coming around, and then my dad ended up moving to New York City.
Okay.
To work on the Brooklyn Bridge. He got
cool.
this big contract there, and actually got some awards because they had a big renovation on the Brooklyn Bridge in the 80s, in the 1980s. So he went out for that and ended up staying there.
Okay.
And so my mom was kind of pretty much then like a single mom, right? And then she was like, what I want to do, if anything's possible. She had these German exchange students when she was a kid.
Okay.
And so we ended up moving to Germany.
You, your mom, and your sister.
Yeah.
And your dad in Brooklyn.
My dad was in the city.
Okay. How old were you when this happened?
I mean, I was 4.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. That's like connects this circle back to Germany for you, for your dad. Crazy. What part of Germany?
Munich.
Okay. And how long were y'all there?
We came back when I was like 12.
Okay.
But we came back for a year when I was like in 2nd grade, because actually I never did 2nd grade. I just skipped a grade when I came back here. But because I wasn't speaking English at all at home. So my mom she was like, oh my God, the kid doesn't speak English anymore, you know? So she came back for a year. And so I got it back.
Well, that's like formative years. So like your childhood, your like elementary school years were.
I went to German schools, everything. I was a German little kid.
And you have to remember all that.
Yeah,
right?
It's an amazing childhood.
Really?
Amazing childhood.
Really? Cool. And your sister was there the whole time with you?
My sister was with me.
And what?
My older sister.
You didn't go to like the American school of Munich or something?
German school, yeah.
Just like the neighborhood school or whatever?
Neighborhood school, and then after 4th grade, they classify you where you're going to go, like to university or to like a trade school or whatever, you know. It's after 4th grade.
After 4th grade?
Yeah, so they already know, you know. So starting 5th grade, you go to your high school, and then you go till the end, you know, 12 to 13.
Whoa.
You can transfer, I think, when you're in 7th grade, in case they made a mistake.
Right.
But pretty much you're set in
Whoa.
the way you're going to go.
Very German. So comparing, you spent enough time there to be able to like draw a comparison between there and here, especially since you've raised kids, and your kids are all raised here, right?
Yeah.
Your kids?
Yeah.
How do you compare the two?
The schooling?
Societies, the schooling.
Childhood. It's different, right? Because of technology and the way the world is now. But man, it was an amazing childhood, and I actually took them back a couple years back just to visit my old neighborhood, and they played in the playground where I used to go to, and we walked the neighborhood. It was really cool. We went to my old elementary school just to kind of, I don't know, I think for me too, my old where we lived, you know. So we did some of that. But comparing it to here and now, I mean, it was good. Everything was like just really high quality. Like there in Europe, there they have subways, trams. Like that's how you get around. There's no like, a lot of people don't have cars, even though my stepfather had a car. But like, yeah, everybody gets around just by themselves. So I was mobile at a young age, you know. I could get around town, around the city as I wanted, right?
Probably safer.
It was very safe. I could go do everything. I would go across town, you know, at like 7. Even
what
like
years
5.
was this?
From 1980 to like, what is it? 12 years. So till early 90s, 91.
Whoa!
92.
So this is like East Germany, West Germany.
Yeah, for sure. My best friend escaped out East Germany.
Wait, which? You're on West Germany, I'm assuming. Where's Munich? Is Munich in West Germany?
Yeah, West Germany.
Okay, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been to Germany actually, but I should know that about that.
But yeah, an interesting thing was the classes were separated by religion. I'm sure it's different now, but it was like Catholic Catholic class, and so all the kids that were Catholics. They were in one class, and then the Protestant class, and then like the Turkish kids and the Muslim kids, they were like atheist kids.
They were treated as atheist kids?
Yeah, they was called the atheist class, I think.
No.
I could be wrong, but that's what I remember.
Whoa.
They were just all thrown in the same thing. You know?
Was it thought of as like a disparaging thing?
I was friends with everybody. Like I played with the Turkish kids, you know. And there's like a whole Armenian genocide where it's up there, you know, my wife's Armenian. And I'm very integrated with Armenian culture, but it was it's similar cultures in a way, right? Yeah. But it's something. It's like the government, right? That did all this stuff. But I was friends with all the guys. I used to play soccer with them and had a lot of good times.
Did you feel like a racial disparity, or I guess religious disparity? Was there like segregation or?
I didn't feel anything like that.
No.
I didn't feel anything like that.
Okay. What class were you in? Were you raised in?
I was in the Catholic. I'm a good Catholic boy.
Because you're from Santa Fe. I don't know. Are you a good Catholic boy? Were you raised religious?
Well, I did all my things. I got baptized. I did my first Holy Communion.
In Germany?
In Germany as a kid.
Was that just kind of part of your schooling, because you're in the Catholic group? Like all your classmates?
My mom just put me in there, you know.
Okay.
I have a picture. I was like, oh, that's for my communion. You know, I got confirmed too, I was an adult, whatever that means, you know. And then I even got married in an Armenian Catholic church, because usually Armenians are like Protestants.
Yeah.
But for however it happened, I got married in an Armenian Catholic church.
Was your wife religious?
Well, they're very proud Christians, right? Armenia is like the first Christian country in the world,
right?
You know, surrounded by like Muslim countries and stuff. So,
but there's a difference between like cultural, you know, like Judaism. I have a lot of Jewish friends who, you know, are culturally Jewish, but they don't really practice Judaism. I have it's less Catholic friends. When I was growing up, I had a lot of Catholic friends, and it was kind of the same thing. Like they identify as Catholic. I had CCD. I feel like Catholicism though is maybe like not as cool as, I don't know. I feel like people.
I don't know. I don't get so caught up in it. You know, I believe in God, and I don't know. I feel like I'm a spiritual person. You know, like just, you know, but I don't get so caught up in these different things. You know, like you know, I'm friends with like Muslim guys, and I've gone to the you know the mosque and stuff with them, just to kind of I did a little Ramadan kind of stuff, and just, you know, I don't know, it's all about being a good person at the end of the day.
100%.
And so I just focus on that and doing the right things, and, you know, treating people good and doing the right thing.
I mean, yes, that is absolutely the religion that we should all practice.
You can call whatever this and that, but at the end of the day, it's just like doing good, you know.
No, absolutely. No, you embody that. You can see, you can feel that from me. That's part of the reason I want to do this interview as well. And with all my interviews, is like, it's the people that I'm like, I think this person's a special person, right? I think this person is a good person. I think we're all like,
you feel it. It's a frequency, right?
Yeah.
You can feel it when you see people. How we know in our bodies, right?
Yeah. I think we all have the ability to be kind of like little gods or Christ-like figures or Muhammad-like figures or whatever in our own lives, but we also have the ability to be like Luciferian-type figures or horrible figures as well.
Sure.
It's like
that's part of being human, right?
Yeah. But like you said, you can feel it when people, when people are reaching that more God-like status. That's a little hyperbolic, maybe, but like, yes, you feel like a vibration of sorts. And it's those people I want to grab and put on this microphone and like also check to make sure that like my sensors are right. Mm-hmm. Like this person's really cool, right? Mm-hmm. Let me make sure I'm correct here. And then you always are. So back to the chronology of your story. So Germany. When you came back to America at age 12, this is like middle school. This is like, you know, a big time and a big shift in a young man's life that time. What was you went from Munich to smaller town, and not exactly the most like quintessential America. It's not like the hustle and bustle of New York or anything, but was there any culture shock there? What was that transition like coming back?
Coming back from
Munich back to, did you go
to
back
the US? So my stepfather, my mom remarried, and I had a German stepfather. Okay. And so he was into like country music, so you wouldn't know that he was not German, that he wasn't German when you met him. You would think he's like some hick, some redneck.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, because he would speak with the drawl. He had a cowboy hat, you know. And so when we actually, after Germany, when we first came back, we went to South Carolina.
Okay.
And so it was all like white people or black people.
Yeah. What part of South Carolina?
Columbia.
Oh, I went to University of South Carolina in Columbia my freshman
Gamecocks?
year. Yeah, Gamecocks. Go Cox.
Yeah.
I went there 1 year. Cool.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. It was interesting. It was cool, man. I don't know. I guess I'm happy, you know.
Yeah.
I'm happy wherever. It was very hot, and we didn't have like summer clothes. I remember that shift. You know, we came from Germany, and just everything's kind of a lot of times overcast. Yeah. It was only a few months. Anyway, it was great. And then but my mom, she's like, no, we're not gonna stay here. So we moved after 6 months to New Mexico, back to New Mexico.
Okay. And then you were there through high school?
No. Then my dad came back in the picture. My dad disappeared. You know.
Like no one knew where he was?
Kind of, yeah. I disappeared, went offline from when I was like, and I went to visit him once and then twice. Maybe I was like 7 or 8, you know, and then he disappeared for like 4 years. I don't know, something like that.
Whoa. Okay, so up until this time, adolescence, when you're like age 13, 14, back in New Mexico, you had maybe like 1 or 2, maybe 3 interactions with your dad that you could remember?
No. He until he moved to New York. That was a big step, and then we went to Germany, and then I got to visit him one summer. And it was epic. Like he, because he was an engineer, so he I remember him giving me like a tour. We did like that circle line where you go around the city, and he was talking to me about all the bridges and all the buildings and the history. He's smart, so he's like, yeah, fun facts. He'd always be telling me these stories about all these different things, you know. So I actually know a lot of things, and I was like a little kid, so I really I took it to heart. And then the second year he hired somebody because he was doing his kind of drinking and whatever. I never saw him drunk. I mean, my dad, I'm hot-blooded, so I didn't feel like I got pissed. I made the person that he hired suffer.
Wait, he hired someone to
take us around to give us like tours and whatever.
Because you were just supposed to spend the summer with your dad,
right?
Oh, so you guys like a babysitter
all year, and then he was like, I wasn't important enough,
Whoa.
And so I just remembered that was the second year, and then after that he disappeared.
Oh,
for like 4 years, I think.
Did you have, when you first moved to Germany, did you guys have like phone calls or anything? Were you guys maintaining a relationship?
Yeah. Like my sister, because she was my sister is like 2.5 years older than me. So I was 4, she was almost 7. So that's a big deal,
right,
for her to lose her dad.
Yeah.
And that never kind of went away. Like you wouldn't love your daughter enough or whatever.
Right.
That you would stay. So that really, I think, really affected her big time. Yeah. And so me, I was like younger, and so I don't feel like I felt it as much, but definitely jiu-jitsu kind of gave me that male, that the stuff I needed, to be complete.
Totally. When he left, he was gone 4 years. He popped back in the picture now when you're back in New Mexico?
Back in New Mexico, and then he came to visit, and I was like super happy. My sister was still hurt, and she came around, but he was sober. He became sober, and actually my dad passed away last year, beginning of last year.
Oh, whoa.
And so he went undefeated. He was sober to the end.
Oh, really?
34 years.
Shit.
Yeah. And he dedicated a big part of his thing was him helping other people be sober.
Yeah, totally.
And live the life, So in the service, he helped himself, right?
Yeah. Whoa, that's awesome. So he ended, you had a relationship with him at the end?
Well, I went to high school in New York. I ended up moving to New York. Came back in. Because, it's like what's that movie, Boys in the Hood? Is it Boys in the Hood?
Boys in the Hood is L.A.?
Boys in the Hood is like the guy goes to live with his dad because the mom can't control him anymore.
Yeah.
And so I went to go live with my dad, my sister, my older sister too. Just because I was acting up, I was becoming a teenager.
So if you don't mind me just rewinding real quick, because that's kind of a crazy thing. During that 4 years, he's gone. What are you thinking? What's your mom telling you?
I didn't think too much. I'm busy. I'm doing stuff my mom. I remember my sister crying. I don't have too many memories. I was just I was busy doing stuff, and my mom was like my world anyway. So I don't know. I didn't really. I don't remember thinking about it much.
And this the cow.
I just remember like later on in my life thinking about that second year of him not thinking I was important enough to spend time with me like affected me.
Yeah.
Like you're not good enough, right, to spend time with. That was my perception, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And especially the older you get, and as you enter adolescence, I grew up without a relationship with my father. That's when you start to become a man yourself, and you start thinking about how you would interact with your own children, interact with your own girlfriend or spouse, or whatever. Then you start to reflect on how things were done before you, like we were talking about earlier, where you come from, and then
you repeat like cycles, right? You repeat what you know.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I moved to New York for high school, and I got to spend a lot of time with him.
Okay.
He did his best with what he knew. He didn't have a family background or know how any examples, right?
Yeah.
So he did the best that he could, but I got to spend time with him, and he was very real with me, and very vulnerable. And really, I think when I reflect on that experience, it really made me a better person because it gave me the flip side of things, of different types of people. Like, for example, my mom's side and my dad's side. My dad's side, like just coming from nothing, and just how people helped him get, through everything, and how he came back. Like he was an engineer, and then when he basically was like homeless for a minute, when he fell off when he was gone for the 4 years, and then he got himself sober, and then step by step taught himself computer programming, and then launched like a new career, and started to do really well with that. And then he got a second chance when I asked him later on in his life, like, what are you most proud of? And one of the things, it was two things, but one of the things was getting a second chance to be a dad.
Yeah, man.
And not many people get that.
No.
So,
with your sister,
God loves them,
Yeah. No, I couldn't. That is. I don't even like to put my mind in this space because I genuinely don't think I'm that person. But honestly, I couldn't imagine anything worse in the world than like being an old man nearing your death and having a broken, or God forbid, no relationship whatsoever with your own offspring. I can't think of anything worse. Like on the last week of that life, I would hope someone would make an attempt or something. It's just, So that, to get a second chance, that's an awesome story. What a crazy story. Your dad's got a great story, man.
Yeah.
That's a great life story.
Yeah. So, I got to go to high school with him and had that. That was the biggest culture shock for me, I think, was moving to New York.
What part of New York were y'all in?
We first went to the city, but then we ended up in Staten Island.
Okay.
Have you seen the show Jersey Shore?
Yeah.
On MTV?
Yeah.
Okay. So we ended up moving there because he wanted us to have a house,
Yeah.
So we ended up going to Staten Island. And, it was phenomenal, man. Phenomenal experience. But it's definitely different. A lot of mafia kids. Like later on, I guess we found out they were like mafia kids. They put their kids in the schools that I was going to.
Yeah. It was a nicer area then.
It was a nice area, yeah. And then in high school, like they kind of changed some zoning where some of the kids from the like projects and stuff could go.
Because there's bad part of Staten Island too, right?
Yeah, like Wu-Tang and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the projects and stuff. Yeah. So but it was a pretty good area for sure. A lot of Italian, a lot of Israeli, Jewish, like
New York.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. But it was what an amazing experience, like go to the city, go out, fake IDs, just the whole thing.
You went to 4 years of high school.
I moved actually second half of 8th grade.
Okay.
And then I went to 4 years of high school,
Okay. And then your sister was there as well?
My sister was there for like a couple years,
Okay.
And then she got her GED and she bounced.
Okay. And what was the situation like with the three of y'all in the house? Was it like, was it a cool family during that time?
My dad didn't have an example of how to be a dad.
Right.
He just did his best, right, with what he knew. And he kind of spoiled me, right, because he didn't have a lot growing up, And so it was good for my confidence, that part, And then he's just so vulnerable and so humble. Even though he's like, Green Beret, like, smart, but he was like humble. and it was something that really, I think, made me a better person in my life. Not that my grandfather or they're not like humble, and it's just different, you know. It's
right.
different. It's made me more sensitive, and I think really set the path for me to do what I do. You know, it's funny because you said Sebastian Junger, and he really kind of taught me the things that, like, why I do what I really do. You know, because, you know, you can be like, you know, in that book called The Book Tribe, right? It talks about how, you know, guys that go to war and they want to go back to war, like they want to put themselves at, you know, like their lives at risk, you know. And he's like, there's the three things, right? One is like you want to, you know, feel connected. You want to be good at something, you know. And what's the last one? Being authentic. And jiu-jitsu allows you to do all those things, to be real, to be, you know, get good at something. If you work at it long enough, you're gonna get good, right? With the people, like, it has to be that culture, that environment, and that's what we do, right? We help everybody get good. I don't care who it is. Everybody's gonna. If you keep coming, you're gonna get good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It also forces you to be present, which I imagine being combat does as well. Like, there is no past, there is no future. You're just here right now. At least that's what it for me. It locks you into the now.
I've had some black belt psychologist guys, and we talk about that. You know, how it brings you back to your childhood. Because when you're a kid, everything's in the present. As you get older, everything's in the past. Past or the future. And when you're doing jiu-jitsu, it brings you back to your childhood because you're in the present. There's nothing else.
There's nothing else going on. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and we get connected. We're authentic. We're real. There's a trust, right? And yeah, it's really something else. And so,
when did you start doing jiu-jitsu then? In New York?
Well, no. After high school, I went actually back to New Mexico right after high school. As soon as I graduated.
You hadn't done any martial arts throughout your childhood?
I did like a little kickboxing, but it was never serious. You know, I never had like a mentor. I just did it at like my friend's house.
Yeah.
He was a little bit older, and he was showing me how to throw punches and kicks and stuff. And then after high school, I moved to Santa Fe, moved to Santa Fe. And then I was working at this restaurant. It's called the Coyote Cafe. It was like a fine dining restaurant. And some of the friends there were doing jiu-jitsu just out of randomly. Like, it's so random because there weren't that many places teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
In Santa Fe too.
Well, yeah, it's like a small town.
Yeah. Had you played any sports?
I played soccer in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, we made it to the Final Four. We were pretty good, actually. We had one really good guy, but we were just a really good team.
Okay.
A good chemistry, you know.
That's like me too. I played soccer in high school. We had a sick team too, and it was the same thing. We made it to the very end. It's like, dude, we should be winning this. We should win state. And then the
guy missed the ball like with like 3 minutes left in the game or something.
Yeah.
And then the guy was right there and he scored a goal.
Yeah.
It sucked, you know, because we like took out some really good guys.
Yeah.
And we were like we're in like these big Jamaican teams or like these. We were just a really good team.
Yeah.
I did my job. The other guys did their jobs.
Yeah. No, I felt the same way in high school soccer. I felt the same way. We had good players on our team. Everyone in the starting lineup could have played in college somewhere. Not like at the big schools, but everyone could have played at D3 at least or whatever. But like, we were all just friends. We played club together. And I'm looking back on it now, I was like, dude, that was like, we all, for it, like you said, chemistry. It was, we were all just buddies.
Yeah, that main guy, you actually just saw him at my high school reunion, but he was on the U.S. national team, I think, for the '96 Olympics, and he got drafted for the Major League Soccer.
Whoa, damn.
So he was pretty good.
Yeah, that's super good, man. Yeah, that's high level shit, because this is New York City.
Yeah,
soccer.
it's big. You know, is it 5 boroughs? 5 boroughs, yeah. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and Staten Island.
Yeah, it's probably some sick soccer players in there. Okay, so that's a pretty good background for getting involved in martial arts. Soccer is a good background.
Yeah, it could be. You know, it's like movement, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, it's cardio.
I grew up like playing soccer like in Germany.
Yeah.
But I never was on a club, so I didn't know how to make plays or whatever.
Right.
But I had my part in the team.
Right.
I knew how to, like, I was tough, and I would take out my job. I was a stopper.
Yeah,
that's what I was.
Yeah,
so I would take out. My job was to take out the best player.
Yeah, that's
shut him down. You know,
that's basically me too. That's basically me too.
Yeah.
I played sweeper and stopper. Depending on the club, I played club in high school, and depending on the club in high school, sweeper and stopper. That's same thing. I wasn't the most skilled player in the world, but it was that kind of mentality, athleticism mentality. You have enough skill to get. It's kind of like my jiu-jitsu game, actually, in a way, to get the So very interesting. Okay, so then you just meet some people at this restaurant, and you start training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. My friend convinced me to go after like 6 months, and then he armbarred me. He was like a smaller guy. He armbarred me like once, and then I was like, let's go again. And he did it again. He did it probably like 10 times, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I was like, I got to learn this. And so there was a class once a week at the beginning, so I never missed. And then there was a class twice a week. It was like on a Monday and Wednesday night. So I rearranged my whole schedule, so I was off on those nights. So I would go, and I never missed. Yeah.
Did you get into fights growing up? Or in soccer?
Not in soccer. Like during one of our playoff games, like towards the end, not our team, but the ref, like there was like a brawl with one of the teams, you know. But in high school, I didn't have fights. In middle school, I did. Actually, maybe in high school on the street, right? Like some kids just being stupid, you know.
But it wasn't like a reoccurring thing or anything like that.
No, it just happened a couple times.
Okay.
You gotta just throw it down sometimes,
right? No, yeah. I understand. I completely understand. So this wasn't, you know, it wasn't like you were like, you know, trying to work something out in terms of like overwhelming aggression or rage that was coming out of you. Like it seemed like some people get into
but it definitely
arts.
when I started to do it, the way I remember how it made me feel,
right?
Because I would put everything into like training. And I'd be so exhausted I could barely like walk out of there. You know, I'd be like so exhausted, and I just loved the way it made me feel after training. And so I didn't even watch the early UFCs yet, but then later on I saw that and I was like inspired. And then my first coach, he was a Navy SEAL, and so he's like, I'm gonna go back in, and so I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I was like, maybe I'll do that, you know, and I actually did try to enlist in the Navy to do that, and then my blood pressure was high for some reason, and so I ended up not going. Or they were going to keep it 3 months wait thing. Gonna wait for 3 months and then come back to you, you know. And after 3 months, they let me come in. But then my friend Amal Easton from Colorado, he has like Easton BJJ. He's a kid. They do like really well there. Do really good work there. I should say it like that. He came back from Brazil, and I started training in his garage every day. And
this is in Santa Fe,
New Mexico, and just a random garage of this.
Amal Easton is like a very established kind of legendary name in the BJJ community, right?
Yeah. He's Easton BJJ in Colorado.
Yeah.
He's like he's like one of his first black belts, Henzo Gracie.
Yeah, and he was in Santa Fe as well.
He's from Santa Fe as well. He's like a big brother to me.
Wow.
He's been at like pretty much all my major events, you know.
Wow.
Maybe not in Brazil and stuff, but yeah, later on, you know.
Yeah.
Like fights and different things.
Was that your first BJJ coach? Is that who you started getting belts under?
No. He just would share. I was just like his training
partner. Okay.
Training partner.
In
I was
his
a
garage.
kid. Like, listen, I was like 18, 19, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he would learn the stuff, and then he would show it to me.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
It was like so high level, you know, from what I knew, all the basic things. And then he took me to a couple tournaments here in LA.
From Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it opened up my mind.
What
bigger?
What belt were you at the time, or who were you? What was the? Were you training in an established facility as well?
Actually, no, I was in Santa Fe still. So,
but were you still training in those weekly or
bi-weekly
classes?
when Amal went to Brazil, I traveled around. Like I went to visit my dad, so there was like a Machado student in New York City, so I would go train. I trained with him, and then Carlos Machado had just moved to Dallas, Texas, so I went there for a week as well, just because I wanted to keep learning, you know.
Yeah.
And he was inside of Chuck Norris's Walker, Texas Ranger studio at the time, so you had to walk through the studio. You had to walk through the set to get to the mat room, you know. And I'm still friends with a bunch of guys from that era. But
I used to love that show.
Yeah, so when back in those days, they only had blue belt and up. So I actually called Carlos Machado and said, hey, you know, I want to compete in this tournament. Can I put a blue belt on? He's like, sure. And I'm still, still friends. I want to do something with him, like one of these days, like travel. I don't know, do something with him because he's like one of my favorites.
Okay.
Favorite people and jiu-jitsu.
So that was your promotion of blue belt.
Yeah, just a phone call and to go, you know. And then I competed. I lost, and I got.
That was out here.
here, and I got more hungry. And then I was like, I'm gonna go to Brazil too for 6 months. I saved up my money.
Oh shit!
Went there for 6 months, and then
just to train.
Just to train. Just trained every day, all day. We did more tournaments, lost some more.
In Brazil, you did tournaments. What part of Brazil were you staying in?
Rio de Janeiro.
In Rio, okay.
Yeah, we lived on this island in Barra de Tijuca.
That's the bay you see right there. Always in like those pictures, shots of Rio.
Well, in Rio de Janeiro, so there's like these big mountains, you know, Jesus statue and all that.
Yeah.
And so there's like a Lagoa area, and there's like a south zone of those mountains.
Okay.
That's like the beach areas and stuff. The
okay.
north zone is like, you know, favelas and poor areas. I should say, you know, poor areas. So I lived in the south area, but there's like kind of like the boroughs of New York City.
Yeah.
There's like Baja, Tijuca. Then there's like another one, Salcojado. Then there's like Ipanema, Leblon, Ipanema, Copacabana, which you probably heard of. And then there's like a bigger bay area, but there's like a lagoon also inside that. So in Baja Tijuca, there's also a lagoon in Baja Tijuca. It's like a strip, you know. And so it's like a strip of land where the beaches are and stuff, and buildings and things. And then there's like a lagoon. So as you go into as you drive into the borough, you see like the water going into that lagoon from the ocean. I have a lot of stories. But
that sounds awesome.
But we lived on that island, and so to get to that island, you had to take pay a guy like 10 cents to take you across. You had to walk across to this one side where there's like a little pier, and I had to paddle a boat to get to my house. Yeah, because there was no land access. Yeah,
every day
it was like an abandoned house that this guy rented. He took care of it basically for this family.
That's so cool.
It was like an abandoned house. Of course, it was like really nice. It was like paradise, right?
Yeah.
That's where I stayed for those 6 months, and then I came back again. After I came back for a month, and then I was like, I want to compete in the Worlds, and so I went back for the Worlds, and I kept losing. You know, I kept losing at first or second match. You know, it took me a couple of years. You know, to finally win one. It took me 13 tournaments get like a first place in the tournament, because all the guys, not that I wasn't good, I was very tough, but I just wasn't a seasoned competitor. I didn't know how to play the game. And so I finally won one, and then I had the Worlds again the next month, you know, and I was ended up being one of the best blue belts in the world after that.
Whoa!
And it's just me being persistent. It was such an important lesson for me. It's probably the most important lesson in my life, of just not giving up, because it was very difficult for me to keep going, because I was financing everything myself.
Right.
And it was hard. You know, I go to California, I go wherever, and I'm losing. You know.
Yeah.
I go back. How did it go? I lost. This, that. And so it was very hard. I was sleeping in the airports. I was staying on people's couches. However I had to do it, I did it. You know. And so it was very difficult to kind of keep going on, but there was a little voice inside of me, let's try again. And then I ended up being one of the best blue belts after that. I won that first tournament, the Worlds. I got a bronze. Then I kept going, you know, from the top all the way to black belts.
Whoa. When you say Worlds, that's IBJJF?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Worlds. It was in Brazil at the time.
Okay.
In Rio de Janeiro.
That was, it still is, but that was probably the organization at the time. There probably weren't many.
It still is. Yeah, you can say what you want, but they're with the gi, it's the official, the official federation. Yeah.
How are you supporting yourself during this time?
So the first time I worked at that fine dining restaurant, and I worked really hard, and so I saved my money. And then, so the first time I just went down, I saved my money, left, and they liked me. I must have done a good job, because they liked me. They kept bringing me back. They kind of let me go away for 6 months, and then as soon as I was back, they'd let me work. Or if I was gone for a month, they let me come back. They always put me in play, you know. And then my mom kind of she's like, why don't you just go down there for a year, because she did an exchange program when she was in college. She's like, why don't you just go down there for a year, get it out of your system. And then I think it's better, instead of going back and forth like you are. So I stayed home for 6 months, some classes in college, and then was training my ass off. I created a little team, a little training area with 4, 5, 6 guys, you know, and they kind of ended up being my older brothers. And let me say too, I think I don't know, I was a young kid, but I think I obviously I must have helped these other guys, but because I led them, at a young age, and I must have inspired them or helped them somehow, like whatever it was, they saw how driven I was, and I was, sharing all the stuff I was learning, too, with them, and then so a lot of people supported me, too, in that. But I also worked at the restaurant, and I even did like during the summer, double jobs, like all day, to save money. But then I ended up, staying there for like a year, and then I was like, I'm not done yet, so I ended up staying there longer. And I had a credit card of like $20,000.
Where is this now? Santa Fe or Brazil?
I'm back in Brazil. I'm still in Brazil. Okay. I came back to visit for Christmas or whatever. But then I ended up staying. I had a credit card of $20,000, so I just lived on my credit card until I was finished. And then I was like, I gotta go back.
So are you training every day down there, basically?
Every day. Yeah, okay. I tried to do some odd jobs. Like I taught English. I even taught jiu-jitsu once I got a name for myself. Yeah. In the city. The city I live now, where I moved to, was called Belo Horizonte, and I kind of consider it my home away from home. Okay. Because all my friends, they're from that city. It's like the third largest city. It's like Rio, São Paulo. Well, São Paulo is number one. Number two is Rio, and then Belo Horizonte is the third. Yeah. I hear it on watching fights.
And
we even have a legacy in Belo Horizonte.
Oh yes, that's right. I think I've seen that on social media. That you have one there now too. That's so crazy. I want to get into that eventually, like this legacy takeover. When you were down there? Are you training at various schools, or are you sticking at one school?
No. I was met Draculino. Once I went to Gracie Barra, in Rio, and then I met Draculino there my first 6 months there when I was there, and then I visited his school. And he was just starting his school in Belo Horizonte. Okay. He was just starting it there. So it was all like whites and a couple of blues. Okay. And Gracie Barra had like all the who's who of black belt world champions too at the time. But I ended up visiting Draculino's gym, and I was like, man, I like this. I felt right. Speaking of like the intuition, right? Yeah. And so I was like, when I come back, I'm going to move here. Because in Rio, there's all these foreigners coming in. And so, like, I didn't really feel like I was part of the family, Right. It was like my family, my team. Yeah. But there I did. And so because there weren't that many foreigners there, and it was, I was like part. Yeah. And so I ended up moving there, and also the environment. Draculino was such a, just great leader and instructor, and just the culture was, and we were the first group, so he had something to prove with us that he was a good coach, right? Yeah. And so he put all of his energy into it. Yeah,
it's fully invested.
And so I ended up staying there, and the school ended up being one of the best gyms in the world.
When you say staying there, you mean for that year or beyond?
First time was 6 months in Rio, and I stayed there for maybe a month, but then I ended up moving back. When I moved there, when I stayed there for a few years, I moved to Belo Horizonte.
Oh, okay. So you're there for a few years. Yeah. So this is when, now you're in.
Yeah, and so the first year, I was the dollar to the AO, the currency was like 1-to-1, and then the second year it turned to 2-to-1. So then I was rich, So I had the 20,000 credit card. It was 40,000.
40,000 credit.
Yeah. So, so I was able to get a car and stuff just to get around, because I was taking the bus and just getting rides from people. Yeah. People take care of me, man. People really take care of me. Yeah. And actually, the guy who has the legacy gym there, him and his dad, his family, they were so generous with me. And the dad didn't speak English at the time, but he just looked at my face and he liked me. Yeah. And so he took the time to just be kind to me. Yeah. And what do you need? Can I help you with anything? Yeah. And it's really nice just going back now with my friends. That a lot of my friends that come out here and stay here too with me sometimes. But it's just nice to kind of see their parents. They, I was a kid. And them just saying man, you said you were going to do this, and that, and you did it. Yeah. You're a winner. You're this, that. Some of the dads and stuff, So they're proud of me too. I feel like they're my parents too in a way. I'm their kid too.
100%.
I was from here and they were there, but I was very close with the guys.
At what point in this journey had you or it clicked with you, or had you decided that this is it, this is what I'm gonna do? It's one thing.
I didn't know. I never thought I was gonna have a school. I never thought I was gonna do this as a business. I just followed my heart, and I loved how it made me feel. Right. And then I read this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and told me to write my goals down. And then once I wrote my goals down, that I wanted to be one of the best or be the best, whatever. things shifted. You know, I got laser.
Yeah, you start creating the path starts.
I laser focus, and that's how I ended up moving to Brazil. And then I just pursued that. I didn't think about having a school, but when I came back from Brazil, I was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, where do I want to live? And I was like, you know, Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's like my hometown. So I was like, you know what? Like, screw it. I'm gonna stay here. If anything's possible, I'll stay here. And so I just started like teaching at a place, and it I put some flyers out. And my mom was really smart with creating articles or getting me in the newspaper and stuff. And so that happened, and people and I got a good location and a prime spot. And I must have done okay with teaching and stuff. And my friend Amal was guiding me with certain things to do. And I just started, and I started like a little school, and I grew pretty fast.
Whoa.
And then I started taking the guys. So I was a young guy. I was 23 years old.
I was just about to ask. Okay, 23.
23 years old.
So this is basically like you just graduated college, basically.
Pretty much,
the traditional path.
And I just went and did it, and we had a lot of students. You know, considering it was like in the old days. And we just kept going, and I took the guys to different tournaments all around the country, even down to Brazil. And we had a really solid team, world-class team, just from
from Santa Fe.
Yeah, from Santa Fe actually.
Cool.
Yeah, we represent. We put it down. Yeah,
that's so cool. Because what's I mean, how many people were training at your school in Santa Fe? Do you think at the
beginning we didn't have kids yet, but I think there was good solid 50, 60 people.
Okay, dang,
which is a big deal back in those days.
Yeah.
Because I had to educate people on what jiu-jitsu was.
Right.
I had to give them VHS tapes of Gracie in action, and how it worked in a street fight and things like that. Unless you watch those early UFCs, which is very very niche, very karate and taekwondo are huge, but jiu-jitsu was very, very underground, So yeah.
Was there anything else going on at Santa Fe martial arts wise?
There were some big schools there actually.
Okay.
And so just things happened. All the serious martial artists kind of started to come to me. There was a huge taekwondo school that was on the main streets too. Huge. It was the biggest gym there. Their head coach actually came to, he ended up being my student, but he came to learn techniques so he could steal it and take it back to the gym.
Yeah.
And he ended up just falling in love with the gym and me and whatever and the art, that he just ended up I can't go back and look people in the face and keep teaching this, So he quit
taekwondo
and just started jiu-jitsu. Put a white belt on. He was this black belt head coach of the biggest school there, and just started from scratch. And he actually started my kids program.
Whoa!
He started with one kid,
Whoa!
His name is Grant Collins. Shout out to him. He has a beautiful gym in Laguna Niguel, and it's called Optimus BJJ.
Wow. There's utility to the other martial arts as well. It's not there's utility to other martial arts.
No, it's all good. There's benefits and everything. Back in the day, you're trying to prove jiu-jitsu is the best and we're better than everybody. But no, there's definitely good things in all this stuff. Main thing is to move and do something, right?
Right.
But man, especially that time, and even now, there's good things in everything for sure. But effectiveness and really true confidence comes from being able to handle yourself.
Yeah. I mean, if you had to pick one, I would pick jiu-jitsu for sure. And as far as what the ultimate expression of martial arts that we have on earth today is mixed martial arts, right? And you're not going to be a successful mixed martial arts fighter without having.
For sure, you have to learn everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably also around this time. This sounds like maybe late 90s, early 2000s that your school in Santa Fe is getting humming, right? So
fast forward. I started this gym in 2000. So this 2025, it's going to be 25-year anniversary of Legacy.
Wow.
So I do a little thing,
for sure.
I'm proud of that. It's a lot of years, a lot of black belts, a lot of good work.
Yes. And the coolest part is, and I only just know a fraction of this, but it's and this is seems like jiu-jitsu in general, it's the tree, right? It's the tree that is created, and the branches that come off of it, and the ways that it goes. You're talking about this guy coming from the Taekwondo school to steal your stuff. It's you don't need to steal it; just become part of the family, and then you. Yeah,
I didn't plan. I just did my thing, and then people were this is where it's at,
Yeah.
And I would take these guys as a young man, and even young guys, young teenagers. I would take them it's crazy when I think about it. I remember because I'm very close now because they're older now. They're like, they have kids themselves. They're like 40, whatever, but they were like 15, 16 at the time, even younger. Like one of the younger brother was like 12, 13. And the dad was like, he let me take them to Vegas, And I was like, well, why'd you trust me? Like I was like 23, like what made you trust me? Like, he's like, you had the look in your eye.
Yeah, dude. No, it's a thing. It really is a thing.
And so I was like, I trusted you. Like I took all his boys. They were like 3 boys.
Yeah.
That's just one case, and I took a whole like squad. I took them to Colorado, Vegas, Arizona.
Damn.
And took them everywhere.
That must have been so cool for those kids to travel around and everything like that. Or even as an adult, man. Shit, I would love to do that now as a grown man.
I gave my heart and soul to everybody.
How long were you in Santa Fe? Teaching at that or with that?
So I had the school, and then I came to actually 2000 when that first same year that I started the school. Like in about August, I came to like a Hickson Gracie tournament because in California there were a lot of like jiu-jitsu tournaments. This is kind of like the where it was at, Gracie Academy and things like that. And I met this Armenian girl. The whatever just happened, and we met and kept in contact, and one thing led to another. And then we ended up marrying, like 2005.
Wow.
And then she moved to New Mexico, like Adib moved to New Mexico, and then, the Armenian culture, it's like that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah.
And so once we had kids, and when she got pregnant, it was kind of very important for her to have that Armenian culture and her family, and she has a big family. Mm-hmm. So it was a big deal, actually, for me on my end and my family, right? But we ended up moving out here in 2007. My son is... he just turned 17.
Is he the oldest?
He's the oldest. So
okay.
We got the keys to the house on his birthday.
Whoa.
About 17 years ago.
Wow. So from 2000 to 05, were you guys doing like a long distance thing between Santa Fe and LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's life and just
no, I've done that, but it doesn't work
kids
out very often.
We're kids, and there's nothing like we just somehow kept like talking and kept yeah.
How did y'all meet? Can you tell me?
I was in Santa Monica, and my friend Alexandre, who comes out here quite often, he kept bugging me to go out to do something at 3rd Street Promenade, and there's like a bar there, and I just happened to walk in, and she like looked at me, and she thought I was Armenian maybe, and I'm like what are you talking about? And I don't know, whatever happened.
Did she approach you?
She looked at me, but then I saw she looked at me, so I went and said, "Hey, how's it going? How you doing?"
Yeah.
And then just whatever, I got her
number.
Whoa,
cool.
And,
standard. How people used to meet their significant others.
Yeah.
People still do meet their significant others, but it's crazy the amount of people that I know that just everything's online now, meeting their significant others. It's always nice to just But it is crazy how life works out. Like a bar,
a random thing.
Yeah.
I was like, fine, I'll go, because he kept bothering me to go out the night before the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, we'll go for like 30 minutes,
Yeah.
And so after he kept bothering me all day long, because he needed me because he didn't speak English at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, we'll go, because we were staying actually right by there. And then we went, and
it's so crazy.
I got a number, and like everything's different, right? We're here talking
because
of that random moment.
Right. And I don't know your wife super well, but like just as far as the business operations, it's like she seems like she plays a super pivotal role in all of this that you have built here. For sure. So it's like you met through. I mean, obviously, this is because of that, and that is because of that. But it's like what a serendipitous place to be, right place, right time for sure. That's so crazy. Very cool. But I believe that too. Like when you're on. I found in my life, not that I've ever met like the love of my life like you have or something like that, but I've had very cool relationships both platonically and romantically throughout my life, and I find that I meet the coolest people when you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. When like you're making the right decisions, when you're pursuing your dreams, pursuing your passions, it's like all of a sudden you're showing up to the bar at the right time when that girl is there. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So that, I mean, as far as your development of your business in jiu-jitsu, it's not a bad move to make. 05 coming out here, and
07
you came out here. What did you sell the Santa Fe score, or was your?
So I opened up I knew I was going to be moving once we got married, and so I made some moves, and I opened up a second school.
Okay.
And then I got some properties, and made some pretty good moves. Sold both the gyms and
like residential properties or business
commercial
properties?
Both.
Okay. Where did this business acumen
I don't know,
come
man.
from?
Just
Just doing it.
I don't know, like you know, like people like, oh, you're a starving artist, like it's like an artist, but like martial artist, and I was like, I don't want to be broke, you know. I want to do well, man. I
Right.
work hard, you know.
But you didn't have anyone like kind of guiding you?
Well, my grandfather was very successful, and he was like a
Okay.
father figure to me. So
Okay.
I think I envision myself as that.
Okay.
That's who I think I am, you know. Like
Right.
that's who I think. I don't know. It's like the.
This is the lawyer
role
in Santa
model.
Fe, right?
Yeah.
Was he alive at that time?
He was, and I got to spend a lot of time with him especially after my grandmother passed. With him, and he was like older, and I would tell him like what I was wanting to do, and he was like a kid, like excited,
Right.
kind of just guiding me and like what he thought.
Yeah.
And I talked to him and say, yeah, that's great, man, this, that, and so I was like, really, I was like, wow, I want to be like that when I'm his age.
Right.
He's blind, going like deaf, but he's still fighting the good fight, you know.
Yeah.
Getting after it, you know.
100%. That's so good to hear. Anyway, I won't get into that, but that is awesome to hear someone in their older age going up.
Yeah, just like
that.
he's like, I would tell him what do you think. He's like, yeah, that's great. So I made some moves, you know. And because I knew when I would move to California, the real estate prices are different here, so I had to make some moves, you know. I wanted to have a good house. I wanted to live in a good neighborhood with good schools, this and that, and I wanted for my family.
Was that one jiu-jitsu school prior to like branching off and investing in other properties? Was it generating revenue at the time? Were you supporting yourself at that jiu-jitsu school and like saving money from that one school?
I just worked really hard, man. I just worked really hard. It's like there's no formula. You know, I struggled too, man. Just been struggles along the way. Like when I was like one of the best competitors in the world, but that doesn't translate to, you know, having a good business, you know,
right.
Unless you set up certain things, you know, like I went to like going back to Napoleon Hill, like specialized knowledge, you know, it's like, you know, I went to this business seminar, like a martial arts business seminar, and they're like, who's done 5,000 hours of technical training in like the martial art, for example, and of course everybody raised their hands. And then who's done 5,000 hours of sales and marketing training? And only like the fat, like good business guys in the front, like raised their hands. And I was like, okay, I got to do some work. And so I started studying, you know, because I was like one of the best guys in the world. And I was like, I don't know what I was going to pay my bills, you know, the next month. Because I put all of my effort into like being the best, you know.
Right. Well, that's what this teaches you, right? That's what martial arts teaches you, is that, wait, I apply myself to this. And I'm growing in this way. I'm making tangible progress in this way.
For sure. I think there's levels, right, to everything that you decide. It's your choice how you want to take it, right? And I think for sure martial arts gives you a structure, right? But then you set your goals. You choose how you're going to go, where you're going to go, what level you're going to go to. And it's scary sometimes to set big goals, but you know, we only live once, man. Let's go for broke, you know.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn that. Like, you might as well. I forget who said it, but someone just said it very succinctly. Like, go for the win. Like, you might as well set the goals to, like, what you consider the win, right? It has to be realistic.
No, I had some really good mentors too when I was young, when I was a teenager, going down this path. You know, they're like, guys would take me out to lunch, and just they even supported me sometimes to go to these tournaments, you know. Do me a favor, think big. Whatever you do, think big. And so I took that to heart, you know. Of course, my family members that gave me the example as well, but just people also telling me, influencing me in the right way.
What was your competitive life like at this time? You gotta go?
And a little bit, yeah.
Okay. You want to stop there?
No, we can like 5 more minutes to finish up, yeah.
Okay.
What was my competitive life as far as what, when?
During this time when your business is kind of getting off the ground, you've met your wife, you're moving to LA, you're also competing, right?
I was fighting too now at this point, and then so 2002 I did my first fight, and then I was still fighting 2004, and then I started to promote my own events, you know, just to get my guys fights, and then even for myself, and then make a couple bucks, I guess, you know. So I started doing that, and then I just focused. 2004 to 5, I was ready. I was still in there, and then I moved. So I was making my play to kind of get myself to my exit strategy out of there, you know. And so just lining things up. So I've made 100%. I made focus on that, you know. So I took like a little year, whatever, of hiatus to set that up, But I still did some things here and there, some tournaments. But I really focused on that and then set things up. I like bought the building and the place where I put the gym in Albuquerque, the other city, and then the Santa Fe as well, and then bought some other real estate, whatever. I just leveraged everything, so I could like sell it and buy my house and set up myself up. So really, I didn't have to work a little bit,
Right.
And so I moved to LA, and when I moved to LA, I was like, well, what do you want to do now? Because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do another school, because it's like so much work. It's like, you have no idea, like it's so much work.
Right.
And it's like backbreaking. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. There's like a lot of ways, excuses, right? But I started teaching. I was training. I was like, I wanted to, what do you want to do? I was like, I'm going to fight, because I was getting an invite to fight in the UFC. And I was like, okay, I'm going to fight. So I started like eventually fighting again, here. And then while I was here, I was like, okay, like I like to teach. And so I started doing a couple of privates. And then I was training at this Muay Thai gym, and the guy asked me if I wanted to teach a random jiu-jitsu class in the morning, like at 10 a.m. And I was like, sure, I'll do it, And I did it for free. And then it filled up. And he's like, can you do 2 classes a week? I was like, sure. And then 3 times a week, and I did it for like 6-7 months for free, because I love it, And I didn't need it for whatever. I didn't need it, but I took the guys to a tournament. And at this point, still, I'm not sure if I wanted to do another school. And out of the 6-7 guys, like 6 guys got first place. One of the guys ended up being like ADCC champion. And all the guys, the guys were just like a bunch of the guys ended up being black belts. That first little group, And so it was so rewarding for me. I was like, damn it, I have to do it again. And so
suck me back in.
Yeah,
like Godfather 3.
So things happened, and I ended up doing a school, and then I did a second one in Pasadena, which came back. It's all right, and then here at Burbank, And then I did some more schools. We had like 6. They were like Gracie. I went because they were doing a franchise, the Gracie Ball, that Carlos Gracie Jr., the Master Carlos Gracie Jr. asked me to be a part of the franchise, because my guys always represented Gracie Ball, but it was called Legacy at the time. Anyway, so I ended up doing 6 schools, and then like the thing goes on. We can talk some.
I got to get you back on. I got so many more questions,
but I had 6 schools, and then that made me realize what mattered to me. And what mattered to me were the relationships, like the thing we're doing right now. It's just talking about stuff and connecting with people. And so that's what makes me happy. And so I got out of all of them, and ended up being just here in Burbank. And then we have so many black belts, and now, kind of at that point now where people want to grow and kind of branch out too. So we're kind of having these other legacy gyms happening.
I have some more questions about
for me, it's not about the domination. I just want to do good work. And I want to support my guys,
Right.
And so whatever that path leads to, it leads to. But I also want to do my best in whatever I do.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. We'll end it there. But I'm going to get you back on here. I need more. But thank you so much for doing this. I know your time is valuable, and it means a lot to me that you do this. Thank you very much.
Got it.